As we go into Pythagorean theorem 7.2, we are working on its converse. So you should already have done the quizzes through the Google Classroom. And now we're going to work on distance on a coordinate plane. We talked a little bit about the other day, counting the short, and then checking for that long. Try not to just count diagonal and hope for the best. Actually, do the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So how do we apply the distance formula? Well, we kind of already did, because if we go back to this problem right here, how I showed it, we actually found the difference between the 7 and the -4, right? 7 minus -4, that gave me the 11. And 18 minus 5 gave me the 13, right? So that's really what we're doing on this formula, is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to solve for d, which is your distance, and it's going to be the square root of, it's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, which basically that's the formula. It's the change. Distance is equal to the square root of the change in x's squared plus the change in y's squared. Now keep in mind, must do parentheses first, then square. So in this next one, I'm going to do it both ways. I'm going to do the distance formula as well as by counting. So the distance formula says, I'm just setting it up. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. If I were to take on my x's, 4 minus the -2, and I were to take my y's, 3 minus 1. My next step would be d is equal to the square root of, this gives me a plus, so I would have 6 squared plus 2 squared. So distance is equal to the square root of 36 plus 4. So the distance is equal to the square root of 40. Now the square root of 40 is approximately 6.3. In this case, it doesn't tell me what the units are, so we're just going to call them units. If, however, I were to have counted, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's what I got here. And up to, that's what I got here. And I would do the same thing. I would have done 6 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared, which is 36 plus 4 equals c squared, 40 equals c squared. And to get that square root in there, this is when I would take my square root. So I get c, because that cancels, equals, and then my 6.3. And that's an approximate. All right, so then the chess player, going to plot those dots. So we're going to plot 4, 2. Oops. We're going to plot 4, 2. And we're going to plot 7, 8. And you can choose which way you want to do it. I will tell you, on a small grid, it's really easy just to do the quick counting. And the answer on this one on the chess, I believe, is the distance is approximately 6.7. Make sure you show your work. Then we get to the next page with some examples. I do want you to try the distance formula. So do label them, x1, y1, x2, y2. And distance is equal to the square root of, go ahead and put in the pattern here. My x's come first, so 5 minus -3, 2 minus 1. So my distance is equal to the square root of, this is a plus, so it's going to be 8 squared plus 1 squared. Distance is equal to the square root of 64 plus 1, square root of 65, which is approximately 8.1. This next one, I'm making you work a little bit backwards, okay? So as we work backwards a little bit with the distance formula, we're going to have distance equals. This is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So now I'm putting in a b value, unknown, but I'm telling you what the distance is. So we're going to go back here, put this. 5 is my distance, right? The distance between this and this is 5 units. And then it's the square root of 7 minus 3 squared plus b minus -5 squared. So now back to solving equations. We really do need to be able to solve equations. So 5 is equal to the square root of, that's going to be 4 squared plus b plus 5 squared. Well, the only way to get rid of that big radical is to square the entire thing. So we're going to square both sides. So I end up with 25 is equal to, the square gets rid of this radical. So I end up with 4 squared plus b plus 5 squared, because that was inside. So now I get 16 here. So take away 16, take away 16. I now have that 25 minus 16 gives me 9 equals b plus 5 squared. We still have a little bit of work to do because I need to get rid of this square over here. But to get rid of the square, we have to square root. So I'm going to rewrite this over here. We got 9 equals b plus 5 squared. To get rid of that square, we're going to square root both sides, which gives me 3 plus or minus is equal to b plus 5. Now I have two problems. I have to solve it with two problems. I end up saying -5 minus 5. Lo and behold, we have 3 minus 5, and we have -3 minus 5. So this one's actually going to give me -2, or b could be -8. But since I'm talking about distance, and I'm looking for the side length, the b value could have been -2 or -8. So this ordered pair would have been 7, -2, or 7, -8. It's still going to be the equal distance, 5 units away from this ordered pair. And you can put it on the grid if you would like to see that. The next one, the height of a 12-foot ladder is placed to, okay, so we're going to make a, here's my tree, a 12-foot ladder. It's 5 feet from the base of the tree. How high is it up on this tree? We don't know. So this makes up a right angle. So I'm going to say x squared plus 5 squared equals 12 squared. Now we're back to nice ones. Go ahead and solve that. I believe you come up with x is equal to approximately 10.9 feet. Right, so I think that there is an error in here, but we're just going to go with it with what they have. If this is a right triangle in the base here, this is right triangle, we need to do some calculations to find this out. And this one I gave you as a bonus. But I believe it is on the assessment, so we'll go over it in class. Try on your own. The base of a 15-foot ladder is placed 9 feet from the wall. So 15-foot ladder, here's my ladder, 15, 9 feet from the base of the wall. How far is it up there? You guys should be able to do this one. I believe it's going to be 12, but make sure you show your work. And this one, it's a long way, the short way from point A to point B. I'm trying to find that value. To the nearest meter, it means round to the nearest whole number. So A, B, and this is going to be C. So 34 squared plus 41 squared equals question mark squared, or we can use C. Solve that out and try to find how far it is from A to B. Hopefully you find that C is equal to 22 meters when you round to the nearest whole meter. Darion, keep in mind we have north, south, east, west. That might help you when you set it up. I will show the little setup here. This is the C value. Darian drove 8 miles due east. So here's Darian's start, 8 miles due east. And then 5 miles due north. Actually here, started here. 8 miles, and then we did north 5 miles. How far is he from his starting point? Here's where he is now. 8 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. Or you could do 5 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. You should end up with approximately 9.4 miles because it's to the nearest 10th. These I need you to graph them out and find the distance. I will tell you it's a 10 units. Make sure you show your work. Number 5, draw the picture. It ends up being 10 units as well. Number 6, take the cube root. When you take the cube root, there are 2 possible. So the when I take this, I'm going to take the cube root. To give me the cube root. So this cancels this little thing. So it's just x is equal to the cube root of 729. So solving for x, x does equal the cube root of, so that one is yes. And when I take the cube root of it, I believe it is 9, because 9 times 9 times 9, 81 times 9 equals 729. And select 1. The square root is, I'm solving for x, so take the square root of both sides. X is equal to the square root of 63, yes. And it will be positive and negative. So that is correct. And it's a select 1 only. And you guys are ready for the review. So we're going to work on that review only right before your assessment.